has to offer, well, make sure you like and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Be the first to find out about ticket giveaways, amazing guests, awesome contests, and Toxic Radio events. Just search Toxic Radio Live, all one word, and press that little button. Every time you do, someone here at Toxic Radio will get their wings.
Yay!
Well, not really.
Aww.
But we will get a warm, fuzzy feeling in our tummies. But then again, that just might be the beer. Anyway, like and follow us, and we will see you out there on the interwebs.
Toxic Radio. We're loud, proud, and in some countries, not allowed.
Oh my God.
But play it safe. Play it toxic. Planning your Saturday night can be a bit of a bitch.
Saturday night is the loneliest night in the week.
Well, it doesn't have to be. Load up Toxic Radio every Saturday night for the heavy metal happy hour with the one and only Fishman.
I know that, dude.
There will be interviews, ticket giveaways, a little bit of banter with Toxic Mike, and of course great metal from the 80s all the way through today. Starts at 7 p.m., runs until Fish says it's over.
Everyone get out!
Catch it only on Toxic Radio. Don't play it safe. Play it toxic.
Welcome to Paradelphia Radio. This is Rick Pruitt once again here in the Toxic Studios for show number 299.
Some things don't even cost that much.
We are one show away from our big 300.
I can't believe it.
But tonight we do have a good one on tap here.
Oh yeah, always.
But, before we get to all that, Mr. Dougie Doug
Yes,
is here in studio.
I am here. It was Father's Day last week, so we went on a nice little camping trip. So that was my absence. But next week's the big party.
You did not get eaten by bears?
You know, it's funny. We were like 4.5 hours away where there were bears.
4.5 hours away.
It was up in Wellsboro, PA.
Why'd you go all the way there?
Just, I don't know. It was different. It was just the mountains.
Just started driving.
But yeah, but it was crazy. Like, so you had all these warning for bears and everything, but the one thing that stuck out the most was the big old placard that said, "Watch out for rattlesnakes."
Oh, yeah.
I didn't even think they were up there. I thought rattlesnakes were in, like, South America and Africa.
I'm sure that went over big with you.
Not northern Pennsylvania.
The northern Pennsylvania rattlesnakes.
Well, oh, yeah, that's
pay
true.
Pay more attention in science class.
That was a long time ago. But, yeah, so, but, I mean, yeah, it was nice. It only rained once. It was, warm, but,
Very cool.
Back to South Jersey.
Back to South Jersey. All right, so it is the most magical time of the year.
That's not Christmas.
Not Christmas.
Halloween?
But you're close.
No. Okay.
Because this time of year there is something red that comes into your chimney.
Uh-huh.
And eats,
acid rain?
And eats, as I said in my little promo we put out there, eats all your milk and cookies.
Okay.
Maybe eats grandma and grandpa.
Termites? I was just saying, there's so many things that I can think of here.
It is Blobfest season.
Ah, even better. Okay, so it's not as bad as the rest of those things.
Not as bad as Christmas, no.
No, right.
and tonight joining us, we have the Master of Ceremonies, Mr. Dash Daring, a.k.a. Chuck Francisco. Chuck, welcome back.
Hi.
Welcome back.
Hey, fellas. Thanks
How you
for having
doing?
me back on.
Hello. So,
rocking and rolling.
We've been talking about this and trying to promote this for a few weeks now, and the day is getting closer and closer. We're into July now, and you guys are a little over a week away. So
that's true, and we couldn't be readier. Readier? Yeah.
I've used way worse words. See, even there, so don't worry.
Just smash it together; it'll work.
Yeah, it always does.
So last year you guys did the virtual thing because of COVID, and for a while there you weren't sure about how it was going to go this year. But this year, I guess because of the restrictions that you guys were not sure of at the beginning of planning all this, you went virtual again with this. So what is on tap here? What is the thought process behind the event this year? What do you guys have new coming in this year? Just give us kind of the rundown.
Yeah, thanks, Rick. So last year we had about like 6-8 weeks to really put Blobfest together in a virtual sense, and oh my gosh, I think we did a pretty good job. I think we had a fun time. But if you look, you can sort of see the edges, the seams. Some of the segments were just filmed in my basement because we couldn't get people together in one room together to film. So, and despite that, we actually won the Rondo Hatton Award for Best Virtual Event, which is a prestigious horror award. Yeah, so this year we had the time, and it was very obvious to us right around December, January, that Phoenixville itself wasn't going to allow us to put a festival of 20,000 people on in the summertime. So instead, we decided we were going to kick everything up as many notches as we possibly could. So we're offering a full 3-day event. This year, we're starting off with a pre-show cocktail hour with Aurora Borealis. She's a horror hostess from Baltimore. She's going to kick everything off. Then we're going to have a Friday night show. It's very similar to our Friday night stage show. And then very rare, this is not a thing we ever normally do. We're actually showing the Blob on Friday night. We normally never, ever do that. And then we just kick it off. We don't stop for the entire weekend. We start off Saturday morning with the Monster Kid Matinee. So the Monster Kid Matinee is puppets and story time, but with a horrifying, ghoulish twist.
Nice.
And that's our 10 a.m. Saturday morning. That rolls us right into Dinosaurus, which is our first movie on Saturday. We've got double features all day of The Blob and other movies from Jack Harris. So Dinosaurus, 4D Man, we've got Equinox, we've got Mr. Lobo's Spook Show at night. We're going to have pipe organ music. We're going to have short films. We're going to have wacky commercials. We're going to have vintage things. And then we go all the way through Sunday. We're having more on Sunday. We're going to have The Blob on Sunday and also Vincent Price's The Last Man on Earth. So I'm underselling this. There's a ton of things baked into this entire weekend. We've been working for months on it.
Yeah, I noticed some new things you guys had this year. One of them was a tinfoil hat contest.
Yeah, I remember you were talking about that, yeah.
What is that all about?
So that's actually a legacy event that we had discontinued because it was impractical for a long time. We did that it was an early Blobfest thing that went on for several years or more than a decade. But it became really impractical because we would have all these gigantic tinfoil hats that would take up lobby space and fall apart. And but since we're all in our houses and sending videos, that it can still work.
Right.
Nobody's yelling down up front, so
that's very cool.
That's exactly right. Or the lights catching off of it and
all kinds of glares and everything. Right. Yeah.
One of the most
neatest. So
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, Rick. If you go back and you look at old movie theater promos on like archive.org or on YouTube, you'll find promos from the 40s and 50s that are all about telling women to take their hats off. Because women would go to the theater and they'd have a hat and it would be very fancy. It was at the time you had to have the more feathers in your hat, the more ornate your hat was, the better. And it would be pinned to your head. So you couldn't just take it off. But women would go to the theater with these enormous concoctions and they would block the view of the people behind them. So there are like old promos like, don't talk in the theater. Ladies, take off your hats.
Now that's the cell phone thing, if you go and look back, and see that.
Shut
that's
your cell phone light off.
Yeah, right. That's awesome.
No kidding.
So one of the things that I find most interesting every year, and I can't remember if you guys did this last year or not. I know you did it the year before when I first found Blobfest, was the shorties, the little movies. Mm-hmm. Did you guys do that last year or not? I don't remember that.
We did, yeah. So
okay,
the short film competition is a pride point for Blobfest. It's one of those things where people come through and you're getting everybody. You're getting actual aspiring filmmakers who go on to do things in the industry, and you're getting little kids who just want to play with their Play-Doh and do an animated dinosaur movie and everything in between, and it's always a hoot.
Yeah, some of them are really good, considering the the budget is probably $20 and a peanut butter sandwich,
Right, but the quality, like you said, is amazing.
But they're writing scripts and they have parts for the different people in the film, and And I think, what are they, 3-4 minutes or something? They're not really that long.
Yeah, 3 minutes max. We want them to be horror or sci-fi or 1950s themed.
Yeah.
We've got I think we have 15. I just put them all together for us to pick and choose the winners for this year.
Yeah.
And a lot of them are a lot more probably creative than some of the horror movies nowadays. So, you know.
Yeah.
So we had a really good one 4 years ago now, 2018. It was called The Fee. Really like that one. Will Martino. He came in. He did this short film, and it was about a tooth fairy and a little kid, and the tooth fairy's monstrous, and it was really good to the point where we were like, "This is really scary. We're going to have little kids in the audience. Is it too much for them?" We actually had a warning. Like, if you brought a small kid with you, this next one's going to be a lot. And the next year, he won, and then he came back the next year. He had built it. He put some funding together and built it out into a short, like an actual short film.
Oh, wow.
And so it was actually part of Blobfest the following year.
That's cool.
Wow.
That's cool. So this year, your theme is House of Harris. What does that refer to, and where did that come from?
The producer of the Blob is Jack Harris. He passed away a few years ago, and he was prolific as a Hollywood producer. His book is fantastic. You should definitely look it up. He talks he lived out in LA, so talking about like the celebrities and stuff who would come to the house, everybody who he knew. And so he put together the Blob. That was his first big production. And then he also did several other films from the director of the Blob, Irvin Shorty Aworth Jr. We're showing all of them, or all of those collaborations this year. So we're showing the Blob and Dinosaurus and 4D Man. Those were all Jack Harris. And then we're showing Equinox, which was not from the director of the Blob, but it is a very well-known cult film that was super influential. It's got a Criterion edition, and it highly influenced The Evil Dead, the first one.
Okay. Yeah, it's an interesting choice. And I know from experience last year when I signed on to the ticket for the virtual event, you guys had a Discord server that you guys ran simultaneous to the movies. Are you guys doing that again this year?
Absolutely. The community is my whole thing about this. I love talking to people and hanging out with people. That's the thing that's been the worst for me for this whole thing, is just humans.
Yeah.
That's a huge part of Blobfest. Like 20,000 of your closest friends, and everything's fun and campy. So yeah, we're absolutely doing the Discord again. It was so much fun. You're reminding me I have to go in and update the emojis inside the Discord for this year's movie.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. I sat through it was all the I think it was Saturday night or whatever last year. Just kind of sitting there on the computer watching the movies, and split screen with the Discord server, and just put your comments in there every here and there,
definitely.
reading everybody else's comments about the movie, and
it's like you said too. The interaction, because you're bringing people that have this similar interest. I mean, it's a big interest that not many people think that is out there, but it is. I mean, there's a lot of people that have the monster and the old film and all of that. That to be able to come together, it's definitely something unique and fantastic.
Yeah, you guys got Mr. Lobo back this year, which was pretty cool. Like, he was there the year I was there live. He did that spook show, and I got to see that live. But and I think he did something. Did he do something last year, or am I getting that wrong? He did something.
He
last
did.
year,
You're right. Yeah, he did the virtual. He brought the spook show virtual. So for those who don't know, inside the movie The Blob, there's a sequence in our theater, in the Colonial Theatre, where they are watching a movie called Daughter of Horror. And that's when the Blob comes out of the projection booth and attacks the people inside the theater. So Mr. Lobo has been for a bunch of years now, has been doing a spook show, a not quite midnight spook show, live in our smallest theater. We have 3 different theaters in the smallest one, and it's a vaudeville variety show in front of the movie, because the movie's paint-peelingly bad. Daughter of Horror's really hard to watch. And it's only 65 minutes, but it feels like 3 hours.
Right.
Right.
Oh man! So we've got dancing ghouls and all kinds of schlock and stick. Last year he brought that virtual, and he's doing it again this year. It'll be the crown jewel of Saturday night. It's our late night Saturday.
Very cool.
This is literally like the monster, like Woodstock. That's what it is. Yeah. Like, it really is. It's like, again, it's incredible. It's pretty
It's
cool.
amazing that it built up over just this movie that was just,
right.
I mean, when I was a kid, I knew of the Blob. My parents, I
Right.
saw it on Saturday afternoon TV, monster movie or whatever every now and then. And my parents knew about it, and
Sure.
they, if you asked them about it, they said, "Oh, yeah, we probably saw it in the drive-in theater or whatever." But just to take that and run with it, like
Right.
Phoenixville has and like the Colonial has, it's so cool. And you're saying 20,000 people. I'm assuming that's an accurate figure that you're given, and that's a lot of people to
It
come out
is.
there and celebrate a movie that's what 50 years old or
Right, that's
60
what I
years
said.
old.
Something that you don't think would in a sense have that interest, but there is. I mean, that is quite a large number.
Yeah.
What's really cool is that I was actually just talking to a gentleman who's he runs the Steve McQueen Speeding Bullet podcast, and his questions were a lot about like Steve McQueen's role and influence, and he was asking, do people come to this just for the movie? Are they there for Steve McQueen? Are they coming for other things? And is that okay? And it's great intersectionality. So we have a rockabilly band normally on the street that's been Dibs and the Detonators for a while, and I love those guys. People are coming because they love Dibs and the Detonators, and then they get there and they see like classic cars and they see like vintage monsters and sci-fi,
Right.
and then the theater, and they go in and watch a movie, and now they love the Blob too, or they love the Blob and now they like rockabilly music, and there's so many angles, and it's so great. Like all these different groups, you see these people who are dressed completely different from each other, and like you can tell that their interest is different, but they have a common
Right.
core, and it's great.
Yeah, it's definitely, when I went up there that 2 years ago, live, I didn't know what I was walking into. I went up there with my nephew, and he's well, at the time he was like 16 or 17, going on 52.
Right.
He was into all that old fashioned Universal horror movies and all that stuff. So he had an interest,
Right.
and we kind of just went there figuring, let's go see what this is about, and I wanted to do something with the. With Facebook Live for Paradelphia,
Right.
and it was like you're saying, Chuck. It was just so many different angles and so many different things to see, and you had a dog parade, and you had a screaming contest in the theater at one point. I think that was during the Spook Show, and it was crazy.
Right.
I mean, the amount of, and then the movies themselves.
Right.
Like we couldn't even sit down for long enough to watch a lot of the movies because there was just so much we wanted to see and do.
Right. All that interaction. It's like literally you go and a lot of, like you said, you need just having that one introduction from one thing introduces to so much. And again, before you know it, it's like you're definitely not going to be bored,
Yeah.
So.
And you guys have done a really good job of taking that vibe and turning that into something tangible for a virtual audience, which is not easy. And it's probably why you guys won the Rondo that last year. That's again, that's not an easy task to take what I saw live 2 years ago and make that something that is just an online event. But you guys nailed it.
Thank you. We just honestly we just wanted to. We were trying to have a good time too, and it's interesting because you're right. There's no way that you can see all of the things that are planned for Blobfest because we have overlapping programming. I think sometimes 3 layers of overlapping programming. Plus all the vendors. So this virtual Blobfest this year and last year is probably the only time you'll ever get to see all of Blobfest if you can sit there that long. It's a lot of time.
Yeah.
It's like camp out with the computer. Here we go, but yeah.
So as far as anybody who is interested in seeing this or buying a ticket or whatever, where can they go? I know you guys have merchandise. We didn't even talk about the shirt this year. You guys have a dedicated shirt every year that's Blobfest specific, and this year's shirt is pretty cool. It's got a big dinosaur on it. I saw that.
So it's got a couple of elements I really love. So this year's T-shirt was designed by Donald David, who plays a character, and he probably, if you've been to Blobfest, you've seen him as different characters, usually in very good prosthetic makeup. He does a great job. His T-shirt this year, as you were saying, is a dinosaur stepping in the blob and in the back is a giant film canister of old 35 millimeter film, and the blob's coming out of that. So many intersections of things I love. We're at the colonialtheatre.com, and it's theater spelled with an R-E. Tickets for the whole weekend event for the household is just $25. That's your virtual ticket. It gets you the whole thing. If you want to up that, we've got a VIP ticket that you can get. And there's a whole bunch of things with that, but the biggest thing with the VIP ticket is that it gets you a custom shirt that's different from the regular shirt. It's the healthfully air-conditioned shirt. If you've ever seen the Blob, back hang underneath the marquee, that they're blue with white text that say healthfully air-conditioned.
Right.
This is the only way you can get that shirt. Next year, when you see people with it, you'll know they were a VIP, but you won't be able to get it then. So that's the shirt.
There you go.
That's awesome.
That's the
Very
VIP
cool.
shirt.
Very cool. All right.
We've got a custom poster by Chris Garofalo plus a Hatch show print. We always do a Hatch show print as well.
Oh, cool.
A whole bunch of Blob merchandise, including snow globes, because you got to keep the Blob cold, and bumper magnets.
That's what's
you.
awesome.
Anything.
It's like every angle was covered with it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
That's
a lot
I
of
don't know
fun.
if you guys know this, but at the end of the Blob, and I apologize if I'm giving anything away. I'm not talking about the end of the plot, but the end of the Blob, it says the end, and then it transforms into a question mark. That was actually not just a Blob thing, although it's funny in the context of the end of the Blob because it's about keeping the Blob cold. Right, but the other Jack Harris movies we're showing, all three of them, 4D Man, Dinosaurus, Equinox, they all do that. All of them. I guess he might have thought it was a really funny thing, or maybe he was ahead of the game just to open it up for sequels. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe he thought, well, if I come up with something else, let me just leave like a cliffhanger, but yet not a cliffhanger, just a what-if kind of safety security type thing.
If it worked out, you know,
Yeah, right.
you got to weigh
I
in.
mean, it's smart. It's a good way to put it, you know?
All right, Chuck.
So Jack Harris, man, he was a mover and a shaker. He started out as he was a kid who would run film prints. He would move. He was a delivery boy who would move film prints to the movie theaters. He would just drop them off. That was how he started. And he saw the inside of the business, and he was incredibly smart, very keen. He always saw the angles and worked his way up to be a film distributor of renown.
Talk about seeing something and running with it.
Yeah.
There's hope for you yet, Doug.
Oh, yes, almost. I'm telling you. I'm just about there.
All right, Chuck. Well, I mean, it's been great having you on. I do appreciate you doing this every year. We always want to have you on and promote Blobfest because I fell in love with the event when I was up there a couple years ago, and again last year virtually. Hopefully 2022 will bring another live event because I'd love to get back up there again. Yeah.
So we should do this again. I always enjoy coming on with you guys. If you want, I can come on again next month if you're interested, because we're bringing the Splatterfest back in person. That'll be our first in-person event.
Yes, I did see you promoting that. Yeah, absolutely. We'll talk after the show, but yeah, absolutely. I would love to talk about that. Yeah. So again, Blobfest this coming, not this coming weekend, but the weekend after the what is it, the 9th through the 11th? Yep.
Nice.
Tickets on sale now. The Colonial Theatre.com. Just look for the Blobfest signage and logo on there, and you can follow that to the ticket purchasing screens. And hey, man, if you're looking for a good time,
it's definitely worth it.
$25 for a whole weekend, and you can get the VIP, get the shirt, and all that other good stuff. I mean, I can't promote it enough. For the money. It's an entire weekend of entertainment.
Again, you're not going to find anything like that and get what it is. So it's awesome.
Yeah. So Chuck, I want to thank you again for coming on. Good luck this year. Hopefully everything works out great. What are you guys up to now? I saw 23 states or something. Last I saw you post.
Sorry about that. I've got this weird Tim Burton clock that just goes off at the wrong time. It's just so bizarre. It's great in work meetings. So I think we were up to 25 states,
25,
plus a
okay.
province in Canada and Scotland.
There you go.
Oh, wow.
You guys are going worldwide.
Heck yeah. All right.
Worldwide.
Last year, I think there was a user in China, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, which is great. Like, I don't know how they found out about it, but awesome.
Hey, we have them. We have people from China listen to the show. I say the same thing. Like, they're on top of everything.
Yeah, we look at our stats every once in a while and say, "How did you ever find this show?"
Exactly.
In like Manchuria or whatever,
Yeah, right.
Before I go, can I tell you just a really funny, sort of related story? I was on an internet radio show. I had an internet radio show when I was a high school kid, when it was brand new. It was the Shoutcast plugin for Winamp. Yeah, and we didn't even have internet. Like, I was borrowing the phone line and the internet.
Dial up.
Yeah, dial up. But I was doing it at night because nobody was awake, and I was like 15, 16. My listener base was high school kids my age in Australia who just were getting out of school at that time. I don't even know how they found me. They found me, and like a whole classroom of them would listen to my show while I was up super late, and they were just getting out of class. It's weird.
It's like go to Australia. It's like people ripping your shirt like autograph. So yeah.
Very cool.
Well, thank you guys so much for having me.
Oh yeah,
absolutely. So again, we'll talk about the Splatterfest and having you back on here in another a month or so. But again, Blobfest is coming up soon, and you guys got to buy your tickets. It is a well worth it. Was it $25 to put forth for a whole weekend of entertainment. All right, Chuck. Thank you again for coming on, and again, good luck with the show. Take care, man. Best of luck,
guys.
All right.
Yeah,
like you said, that you're right. I mean, $25 to get a whole weekend of that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
You're literally not going to find something that awesome for that.
You got your movies, you got your entertainment, you got
Right.
your live, your interactive shows,
Right.
the shorties, which I love the short. That's what I was telling Chuck earlier. The little shorties, the films that the people make and submit, little 3-minute films.
Yeah.
Those are really freaking entertaining.
Gives people a chance too, like you said, is bringing the interactive part to a whole thing. So
Like they're really neat to see, and it's amazing. Like some of them are, done by kids, and they're really detailed.
that's what I said.
and creative.
That's what I said. A lot of them are probably a lot better than some of the horror movies nowadays. Because we've seen how some horror movies are.
Yeah. So it's definitely
which real quick, not to jump in anything or to waste too much time with it, but did you see there's another Halloween coming out?
Oh, I did.
Did you? I was gonna say I think I might have actually said something and you commented or something like that, or
Yeah.
I don't know, but I seen it. I'm just like,
I posted about it on Facebook.
you did.
Yeah.
You posted
Right.
it. That's right. I couldn't that quick.
And
I
I
couldn't
just-
figure it out.
They won't stop, man.
Like what I think.
I
you said-
like Halloween. Like
Right.
I love the original movie. I thought it was great.
Yeah.
Even the sequel, I'm down with that.
But it's
I loved
just-
Halloween 3, the one that had nothing to do with Michael Myers.
That had nothing to do with
I
it.
still like that one.
Right.
And
But now it's-
eventually, like, come on, man.
Yeah.
It's been 25, 30 years
I
now.
totally that quick forgot that, yes, I found out because you made the post and I commented. But, yeah, like I said, before I think I put on my post, it's going to be him in a nursing home, like going around, beheaded and all that stuff.
Well, right, and that's what I said. I said, unless I'm hallucinating, I went to see a movie 20-something years ago where he got beheaded at the end of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And here we are. We're on the 5th movie since then.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. I mean,
I don't understand it, but
it's still going.
I don't know. They take the. I think the explanation was they rebooted this, like the one from 2 or 3 or 4 years ago.
Was Rob Zombie, the one Rob Zombie did?
Yeah,
was more his kid.
Was
him as a
supposed
kid.
to be the first one rebooted or something.
Yeah, it was.
I don't know.
Yeah, like it was his take with it. And I think the whole concept was mainly to focus on. It wasn't like in the original one where it just focused a quick, like Michael Myers as a kid. Like it was half of the movie was him as a child and then onto it. But again, it's just how many times.
It's confusing at this point, man.
So
just enough. Like I'm all down with the 80s horror and all that, and Halloween specifically. I watch it every year at Halloween.
There's got to be a fine line though.
It just enough, man.
Yeah.
Find something different.
They are actually also they're doing a Ghostbusters. I don't know if you saw that. But it's
I saw the one they did with all the chicks.
Well, yeah, but this one isn't the chicks. This one, if you watch the trailer, it is the way it looks is that it's a bunch of like teenagers, and they come across. I guess they're the grandkids of one of them. I'm not sure which one. The original one.
Oh, this is the one that was supposed to be. It was supposed to be released last year, but they delayed it because of COVID.
Because of COVID.
Yeah.
It's like they come across the equipment, come across Ecto 1, but they didn't release too much information in it. But it's supposed to be involving the grandkids of like one or two of them, but it's supposed to be futuristic of what the original one had nothing to do with the girl, the female one. So
I see these things pop up where they take these franchises from 40 years ago,
right,
that were popular in the 80s.
It's like
and
they're
70s.
running out of ideas.
Yeah. Nobody has any good ideas anymore, so they
Mm-hmm.
say, well, how can we reimagine this movie from 40 years ago
and add to it? Well,
Come
let
on,
it go. Don't
It's because there's no creativity.
right.
There's no creativity.
I mean, look at
I see this in school now.
right, yeah.
I bitch about
Just
this
take something and
in my job.
do your own version of it. It's kind of like
I literally see this among kids and have for years.
right.
I will give kids a blank piece of paper. I've
Mm-hmm.
done this and say, write a story,
Just write anything.
anything.
Right.
and they will look at me like I have 4 heads and say, "Well, can I do this? Can I do that? Can I do this?"
No, think
anything.
Think of
literally
it and write it
anything. Make it up.
Right.
And they freeze unless you give them a framework or a start. They don't know what
They
to do.
have no idea.
There's no creativity out there, man.
And again, even with the Hollywood creators and everything, you're right. Everything is. That's why a lot of shows you see are all surrounding some kind of the main topic.
Yeah.
You know, like, and again, Fast and the Furious. How many freaking Fast and the Furious? I think like number 9 is getting ready to come out.
You know
here.
why they keep making them? Because dumbasses keep going to see them.
And you're right. That's all.
Dumbasses keep
all
going
these,
to see them.
All these producers and these writers.
F27.
What they're saying, what they're saying right now is, you know what? People keep making us rich, so we're going to keep. So I guess, you know what? If I think my donut sucks, but everyone's eating them, I'm going to keep making my donut.
the first 1 or 2 was interesting.
Right. Then they went to Tokyo.
Beyond
and
that,
they came back from Tokyo. And then Paul Walker died, and they used the CGI. And then, it is. You're right.
It's enough.
Yeah.
Enough.
I wonder if you took a Hollywood director and said, "Here's a piece of paper, write something down," if they give you the same blank stare.
You know what? You know what I noticed? I don't want to go on a rant because we're going to talk about another.
Right. I know.
But I was this time of year, the end of June, even before this.
Right.
Every year, one of my favorite things is to look at the movies coming out for the summer.
I do the same thing
and
to
go
see what's coming up.
And Taryn and I try to figure out, okay, because we love to go down to the drive-in down in Vineland.
And
check out a couple movies in the drive-in.
Because you can usually watch like 2 or 3 of them at a time, right?
And so we figure out, well, here's the 4 or 5 movies we want to see.
Mm-hmm.
We'll try to figure out when they're at the drive-in. Literally nothing.
Right.
Nothing.
Or it's one from years ago or something.
Nothing is out there that's out there now or promoted to be out there in the next few months.
Right.
That I have a slight interest in seeing.
Yeah. No,
Nothing.
I agree with you 100%. I did. When I was younger too, I used to be like, "Oh, I can't wait to see this," or "I can't wait to see this." And you'll see at the beginning of the year, "Oh, this is the year of the movies." But then all this stuff comes out, and you're just like, what is this any different?
The only thing that was remotely interesting to me this year, and they released it on, was it Amazon or something?
Mm-hmm.
Early, was Kong versus Godzilla.
I've seen that advertised.
I did see that. It was okay. It was pretty good.
Right.
But that is literally the only movie in 2021 that remotely gives me any kind of interest to go see it.
Right.
And it happened 4 months ago.
And even I'm surprised. I'll be surprised if movie theaters don't start going down anyway. Because even with COVID and all this stuff starting to kind of open everything back up, they're putting movies in the theaters, but they're still making it available for people to buy at home. So people are, of course, it's like, well, hell, if I can spend $20 at home and we can all watch the movie here instead of going to the theater and spending $20 a ticket.
But that's short-sighted.
Yeah, well, no, and
because
there's
there's a dynamic to going to the theater.
To going to movies, you're right. Yeah,
it's an event.
Yeah,
it's
just getting
it's an
out.
Experience.
Right.
Going to the theater, going to a drive-in, especially.
The drive-in, I am obsessed with the drive-in. I will say
it's a whole other thing, and it's more convenient to sit on your couch, but you're missing out on a whole experience.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, definitely.
That unless you've done it and you're used to doing it and you know what I'm talking about,
right?
You're not going to understand.
Right. No, I get you. Yeah, absolutely.
And that's the fear is you get all these young people that just go, "Oh, I'm just going to rent the movie."
Just going to rent it at home.
And eventually nobody's going to have gone to a theater or especially gone to a drive-in.
Right.
So they're not going to understand what they're missing.
Right. And there's and I again talking about the drive-in, there's people that I've spoken to. I said, you got to do it because I feel like when I go to the drive-in, it does take you back in time.
Oh yeah.
Even though I don't know what it was like back in time, but you do because that's what it was like. You're in a car. Back then you had the convertible and stuff, but it's so different and unique.
Well, I went and saw when I was a kid. I saw movie like Raiders of the Lost Ark. I saw in the drive-in. I saw Grease in the drive-in at one point.
It's just so. Like I said, my kids love it too. We put the hatch there in my Expedition. We put the back up. We lay something out on the thing. We watch it. It is. It's definitely very cool experience. Yeah, anybody listen, if you've never been to a drive-in, I mean, they know there's not many left, but
yeah, it's
it's definitely worth it.
I always say if I ever come into money, that is
something you do.
Business number one that I'm going to do invest in is to put up a drive-in.
And you do good because
there's nothing. There's the one in Vineland,
Right.
And I have my opinions about how that's being run.
Yeah, I know what you mean. And one more thing about drive-ins, actually, when we were on our way up to Wellsboro, when we went camping, up somewhere close there, they had a drive-in because we were driving down the road, and I seen, I was like, oh my God, that is a drive-in. And Melly said the same thing. She's like, that is a drive-in.
Some do it well. We just had Chuck on with the Colonial Theatre. That's not a drive-in. But it's an old-fashioned movie theater.
Right.
But they do what drive-ins should do. They have theme weeks.
Yes.
They like he's talking about Splatterfest, which is basically an entire, I think it's a weekend, or maybe it's one night or 2 nights.
Right.
Where they do like Italian horror films from the 70s and 80s that were like the overly gory films or whatever.
Right.
But they have these theme weekends, and they run old films.
Sure.
That you can't necessarily ever see on a 35 millimeter print.
Right.
And there is a difference.
Big time.
It's the digital stuff. I get that it's convenient now.
Right.
But watching a film on a 35 millimeter print in a drive-in theater, or even in a sit-down old-fashioned theater.
Yeah. Just something
it's
about
a totally different visual experience.
Especially in the beginning, when you get that see the beginning and then it goes. So,
and it's such a shame that's fallen by the wayside. It really is.
I'll tell you, we're hippies.
All right. So anyway, moving on. So tonight or today, I was going to do just some para news at the end of the show, but I did come across an article today that I thought was kind of interesting. Apparently today on July 1st is the 113th anniversary of what is known as the Tunguska Event. For anybody that does not know what that is, I have an article here from thedebrief.org written by Ryan Sprague that kind of explains exactly what this is. In general, what this is, to give you kind of a preview of this, it is an event that happened in 1908 where something, nobody yet knows what it is exactly, but something exploded over the Siberian forest in Russia.
Well, there's theories.
In a very there's theories.
Yeah.
In a very wide-ranging event.
Right.
Meaning literally 800 miles of forest was blown down.
It was just black.
800 miles.
It was like a small nuclear
This was
bomb
not like
kinda.
a few miles, like a nuclear bomb going off would decimate a few miles.
Right.
800 miles.
Right.
So that's, to give you an equivalent, that's from here to places like Tallahassee, Florida.
Yeah.
St. Paul, Minnesota.
Right.
Nashville, Tennessee.
Pretty much the whole east
Those
coast
are
from
800
Jersey
miles.
down to Florida.
Right. Those places are about 800 miles away from Philadelphia.
Yes.
So you're talking about something that exploded and blew down forest from here to Nashville, St. Paul, Tallahassee.
Yeah. That's not
the entire eastern third of the U.S.
That's not a small. That's not a small backyard, right?
So anyway, this is an article called "Remembering Tunguska: A Mystery Explosion That Baffles the CIA Over a Century Later." Locals felt their skin burning from 40 miles away. Windows shattered with a 100-mile radius. It was an event that shook Siberia and left roughly 80 million trees completely flattened. Something with the destructive force of over 1,000 Hiroshima explosions exploded in Siberia. The problem is, no one knows what it was. Whatever happened over the Tunguska River was seen, heard, or felt by thousands of people. Although several theories have been brought forward to explain it, the Tunguska event remains a mystery over 100 years later. According to many reports that would eventually be collected, on the morning of June 30th, okay, so this was yesterday, not today. On the morning of June 30th, 1908, a bluish-white light lit up the entire sky. The Evenki native people who lived in the hills just beyond the Tunguska River watched as a streak of colored light shot across the sky on a trajectory of impact. After about 10 minutes of watching the light, there was a bright flash and a thunderous explosion that literally knocked them off their feet. Astoundingly, shock waves from the event were reported to have been Astoundingly, shockwaves from the event were reported to have even stretched as far as the UK and even Washington, D.C. in the U.S.
Jeez.
For many days after, the skies over Europe and Asia burned bright. Some people claimed to be able to read a newspaper at night. Wow. In California, The Mount Wilson Observatory noted that atmospheric transparency was very low for months, with an unusual amount of dust particles filling the air. Whatever happened in Siberia was more powerful than anyone could have imagined, but what exactly was it that exploded? Many newspapers worldwide reported on the event, but could only speculate about what it could have been. The region contained extremely rough terrain and was inaccessible to most within Russia. The country's political situation also made it close to impossible for scientists to investigate the aftermath. It wouldn't be until 1920 that a thorough analysis of the area would be taken. Leonid Kulik, the chief curator of the meteorite collection at the St. Petersburg Museum, would eventually lead an expedition to investigate. But harsh weather conditions would delay the investigation until 1927, almost 20 years after the event. Kulik and his team would discover over 800 square miles of devastation to forest and trees pressed to the ground in a radial pattern. Kulik would follow the radial pattern inward to the Tunguska forest to what they assumed would be an impact site at the center. But curiously, no impact crater or material from a meteor could be found. In the fall of 1927, Kulik published a preliminary report theorizing that it could have possibly been an iron meteorite that had exploded in the atmosphere, which would account for the early reports of a bright flash in the sky and thunderous explosion. It would also explain why no meteorite was found on the ground, but many questioned how no physical evidence of a meteorite could have been found, even if it had exploded in midair. Kulik's findings were challenged in 1934 by the Soviet astronomers who proposed that a giant comet was the cause. Considering that comets are mostly made of ice, it might have been completely vaporized by the impact.
It would have never survived in entry anyway,
leaving no trace behind. While many who have looked into the Tunguska incident tend to believe something came from above to cause the devastation, one individual theorized that perhaps it came from below. In a paper published in 2003 in the Chinese Journal of Astronomy and Astrophysics, German astrophysicist Wolfgang Kundt suggested that the cause of the explosion was an eruption of gas from a volcanic rock known as kimberlite. In the paper, he stated it would have come from the molten earth some 3,000 kilometers deep. The natural gas would have been stored as a fluid that deep, and when it reaches the surface, it would become a gas and expand by a factor of 1,000 in volume for a huge explosion. Kundt supports his theory by observing how the trees fell in a radial pattern and several other chemical anomalies that earlier expeditions had found on the site. Another highly speculative theory suggests that this was the aftermath of a mad scientist's invention of a death ray.
Oh, Jesus.
Nikola Tesla had supposedly been attempting to create a machine that would achieve the wireless transformation of energy over vast distances. He believed this could be used to defend against any attacks during wartime. While testing this death ray one night in 1908, Tesla aimed it toward the Arctic and turned it on. He then eagerly awaited any news about destruction in the Arctic, but all he could find were news wires stating that something unexplainable exploded in the Tunguska forest, destroying miles of land and injuring locals. Thankful that nobody had died at the hands of his death ray, he soon dismantled the war machine and destroyed it. While this story is ridiculous, it does add to the enigmatic lore of Nikola Tesla and his creations. Returning to the skies, more sensational explanations have come forward as well. Alexander Castanews, an engineer and science fiction writer, proposed that the powerful explosion was caused by an extraterrestrial craft that had crashed in the forest.
Waiting for that one to come up.
He also said it may have been an interplanetary weapon that was detonated and caused a nuclear explosion, but it doesn't stop there. Dating back to 1973, another highly speculative explanation came in a paper published in the Nature journal. American scientist Albert Jackson and Michael Ryan stated that perhaps a small black hole had collided with Earth, causing an antimatter explosion in the atmosphere.
I don't think it would have been that little bit of a thing if that was the case.
They also stated in the paper that since the black hole would leave no crater or material residue, it explains the mystery of the Tunguska event. It would enter the Earth, and the rigidity of the rock would allow no underground shock wave. Because of its high velocity and because it loses only a fraction of energy in passing through the Earth, the black hole should very nearly follow a straight line through the Earth, entering at 30 degrees to the horizon and leaving through the North Atlantic. Perhaps the most recent development in the entire Tunguska affair came in the form of an official document obtained by John Greenwald of the Black Vault website. According to the document, a 1960s-era investigation by the Soviet Union posed the possibility of a UFO crash being the cause of the destructive event. It traces a history of UFO reports throughout Russia and argues the Tunguska object, whatever it was, carried out a maneuver as it was falling down from the sky. The majority of this document was solely the personal opinion of its original author, but was interesting enough to have been filed deep in the recesses of the CIA file cabinet. While many of the more sensational explanations for Tunguska are interesting, most widely accepted explanation is that a celestial body, such as a comet or meteor, had entered the atmosphere. That being said, no definitive explanation has satisfied the majority of scientific community, leaving the Tunguska event a mystery. Basically, they don't know.
Well, no.
All that was to say they don't know.
And you, again, because that's one of the biggest mysteries about this is everything that was theorized about, oh, it could have been this. There's some explanation saying, well, if it was this, it could have been this. But, again, on the same token, it very well could have been but like, all right, let me go back. So, like we were saying with a comet, that with what we have been said is what it's made up of, it would have burned up in re-entry. But on the same token, how do we know if it was anything from space that came in? Because we only know as much as we know. What if what if something, was coming in like an asteroid or whatever, or a meteor, like it happens, but it was made up of some kind of material that just happened to react once it got close enough in our atmosphere that it caused some kind of thing. I mean, granted, yeah, they said there was no sign of anything to be able, because if a meteorite crashes, they will find little pieces of it or whatnot. But again, who's to say it wasn't some kind of something that we're just not familiar with seeing that made a reaction? I mean,
here's, and maybe this is just me being, I don't know if it's pessimistic or not. I don't know if that's the right word, but the Earth is, and back in 1908 was still inhabited almost everywhere.
You're right.
There's very, very, very few places on Earth that this event could have happened and blown away 800 square miles of Earth and not affected people.
Right.
Not have blown away major cities.
And that's what blows my mind, too. Right.
So you're talking about the odds of this thing happening in such a remote area that it didn't matter that 800 square miles were blown apart.
Right.
When it could have happened, if it happened in Europe, it would have blown away half of Europe.
Right.
If it happened in the U.S., it would have blown away almost half of the U.S.
At least a quarter of the U.S., yeah.
And you'd had millions of people dead.
Right.
Now, was this just a coincidence that they landed in the middle of nowhere to the point where you had 800 square miles to give, so to speak?
I mean,
that's a hell of a coincidence.
Like I said, back in those days, again, during times of World War I and everything, they were testing a lot of things. So, again, like you said, they're not going to just come out and say, too, that's what you're saying. If they're testing something to see what kind of damage it causes in a remote area or whatever, they're not just going to come out and say, oh, that was us testing this.
They kind of poo-poo, in this article, they kind of poo-pooed that whole idea that Tesla and his death ray caused this.
Just kind of like, right.
I got to tell you, that's kind of where I'm leaning.
Right.
Because that dude created some shit.
Yeah, he did.
For real. Created some shit.
There's some stuff he went to the grave with. I mean, I think it was Tesla. There were some things like, there was something that he developed and people were trying. I'm pretty sure it was him, and I forget exactly what it was. But I think it was something that he created that, like, they've been all up for a long time. I need to look it up. But, like, for a long time, always been trying to figure out that he actually figured out.
Yeah.
But he went to the grave with it. Like, he didn't write it down or anything like that.
Yeah. Well,
and
there's reports that he figured out 0-point energy.
Right.
At one point.
There was all kinds of,
which is basically free energy.
Right.
That,
maybe that's what it
God
was.
forbid
I'm thinking
that gets out in the world, because then all your oil companies, all your anyone who supply
well, then there's the rumor that he's been to space. They've tried to say he's figured out a way. Yeah, they're I don't know if you ever heard that, but they said that there's a rumor that he came up with some kind of rocket and was able to at least go to the edge of space and all
Oh,
this
yeah, I
other
heard that
stuff,
one.
you know. But
But I mean, the point is that he did legitimately create some crazy shit that had a lot of energy to it, that had a lot of potential energy effects.
right.
So when they say that he pointed something at the Arctic and found out later on that this had happened,
Yeah.
I mean, they kind of brushed past that. Like I'm kind of curious, did that happen in real time? Did he do that on Tuesday night and Wednesday morning? This happened,
Right. Yeah.
or are we talking
exactly.
about a few years later? Like, what is the time frame of that?
Well, it's funny you're saying that because with trying to see that if it was Tesla took something to grave, like one of the things, of course, talks about he's one of the most intriguing inventors in history, but they're actually, I mean, it says conspiracy theorists say a lot of the stuff he went, but it actually brings perhaps an early application of the teleporter's death ray concept. Some think his Wardenclyffe Tower was a veiled attempt at a super weapon, which was that death ray concept.
Right.
So again, like there are a lot of things that people have I've heard say that he has come up with, that he's created, invented, whatnot, and then he either destroyed the evidence or it destroyed plans to learn or knew how it was put together and went to grave to a lot of stuff, you know, and
Yeah.
so definitely probably
think,
genius with everything. So
I that's where I'm leaning with it.
Yeah.
As crazy as it may sound, I can't believe that a meteor. I mean, I guess it's possible.
well, again,
But
I think anything
that
like
would be
that,
a-
it was
That'd be a hell of a bullet
I'm
dodged.
destroying the camera here.
Because if it was a meteor, landed just
Right.
about anywhere else,
Right.
you'd have had millions of people dead.
Yeah, and I guess regardless, even if it was something that some precious metal we don't know of yet, it still would have, probably caused some damage or something. So
So the point is, it's still a mystery. 113 years later, it's probably never going to be solved at this point.
we
I
can
can't
go
imagine.
there to figure it out.
Go to-
Live broadcast
go to
from there.
Tunguska? Yeah.
Here we are in
Here
Tunguska.
we are in Russia. Is that in the budget, Mike? A little trip to Russia.
Sounds good.
All
He gave the
right.
thumbs up. That's all we need.
All right.
Go to American Airlines. Just give him his name and address. Put it on that account.
Put it on that tab.
Yeah.
And we're not going to tip him, right, Mike?
No tips.
We had a whole discussion.
Okay.
The last show we had a whole discussion.
Gotcha. Okay.
Not our show. The last show that was on Taking It Deep with Godfrey.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
They
Gotcha.
had a whole discussion about
No
about tipping or no tipping.
Nice. All right.
Speaking of Godfrey and everybody else, next week he is going to be in studio with us because we are here for our big 300th episode.
I still can't get over that.
So we're going to have some special guests. He is one.
Yeah.
Hopefully we're going to have a few of our crew in here for the big event.
Oh yeah. I mean, I know I've said it at 100 and everything like that. Well, first of all, it still just doesn't seem like long ago we were celebrating episode 100.
Yeah.
But I still go back to even, you and I first spoke to each other and met episode 3. When you interviewed me, and here it is. God, 7 years, I think?
8 years later.
8 years later.
8.5 years later.
Here it is. So,
What is it now?
well,
Jesus.
2000. I looked it up for the
2013.
show. It was March of 2016 was the 100th episode.
Right, but I'm saying 2013 was when I started the show.
13 or 14.
October.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, 13. So yeah, here we go. That's man. Did you ever?
It's been a while.
It has. I mean, look at everything that's happened in between that.
It's been a while.
And you got to think too, because I think Mike was just starting out with Toxic also around that time,
Yeah.
because you're one of the first shows. So
He was just a
it's-
wee
it's-
babe in the woods.
It's kind of like
Same as we were.
Paradelphia and Toxic are like kind of side by side with
Yeah.
the progress that's been made with everything. So, oh yeah,
Mike's
okay.
giving us the let's call it a thumbs up.
Oh yeah. The toxic thumbs up. That's gonna be a new T-shirt. Toxic thumbs up.
So so next week we're gonna have our big 300th, and what we're gonna do is kind of just hopefully have a few people in here that are not typical of our show, some toxic radio personalities that are not into the paranormal per se, and see what they think about some of the stuff we talk about.
Until they sit at our table.
So they sit at our table, and then we'll have hopefully some of our own folks in here and. Just kind of kick it around and see how things have changed over the past 8 years. Because I know for myself personally, from the time I started the show, my opinion on a few things in this in the grand idea of of the paranormal have changed quite a bit.
Oh, well, before the show, I was only mainly into the whole and knowledgeable in the ghost aspect of things. Now there's so much
I did
that
not,
I've learned about everything. Plus, I was
not know.
360 pounds back when I started.
You were a biggin.
Now I'm 220 pounds and been maintained 220 pounds. You know, so
yeah, I got to work on that myself.
well, you know, you weren't 360, so
I was not. No.
we've done that. I mean, we'll talk about it next week, but we've tried a Ouija board in Mike's apartment. You know what I mean? Things like that. No one would ever let anyone. We always tell people don't use a Ouija board. And we did it in Mike's apartment.
which may explain a lot.
Maybe,
I don't know.
Hey, maybe that's the aliens that come in.
That might be Mike's aliens.
Yeah. Hey, have them come in next week.
There we go.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe
Get down to the bottom of it.
See if you can put a call out, Mike.
Mm-hmm.
Call your aliens in.
Now, if he gets has a dream tonight and they say, tell them we will not be there next week.
We will be there. We'll be there at 7:45.
Yeah. Hey, I'm all for it.
Bring pizza.
If we interview an alien, we'd be the shit.
All right, so that's going to wrap up show 299 here. I want to thank Chuck Francisco from Blobfest for coming on and sharing a few minutes with us here to talk about that awesome event up in Phoenixville. Well, it's in Phoenixville, but it's actually virtual this year. So, again, you guys can go to thecolonialtheatre.com and look up the Blobfest logo or the Blobfest, page and find out how you can pay $25 for an entire weekend's entertainment, and it is definitely something that is worth at least $25.
Yeah. Probably worth more, but it's definitely a good price.
The merchandise, the shirts they do every year. He talked a little bit about the shirt this year. I'm going to definitely grab one of them. I grabbed the one from last year. I think I grabbed that one. I grabbed the Halloween one. They do the Halloween virtual event last year,
which you said they're new every year.
I'm not sure what they're doing. I know they're doing Blobfest, or I'm sorry, not Blobfest, Splatterfest this year. They're doing it live at the theater this year.
Right.
So it might be that those later in the year events are going to be live events, maybe.
Right.
I don't know about that. We can ask Chuck about that next time.
Gotcha, yeah.
I'm not sure if they even know about that yet.
Right, yeah, they're probably still trying to get through this to finish up that planning, yeah.
Right, but hopefully, hopefully this is all kind of loosening up now, and we're going to start having those live events coming down the pike.
And real quick, speaking of live events, I mean, again, I know it's way early, but I will say I found out a few days ago that it's confirmed the Mullica Hill Ghost Walk is on this year.
Oh, they're back again.
Yeah, because last year, again, with COVID, I was reached out.
So do I get to be MC again for the entire event?
Yeah. Well, I'm hoping that we can do the same thing we did 2 years ago, where we set up, instead of behind that restaurant, we put everything up in front of. But again, we get closer to that. But I was, they reached out to me a few days ago about asked to take part. So
here, Rick, I'll be back in 5 minutes.
Yeah, no, well, I'm not going to do that.
I'm
to
back
you anymore.
there entertaining the crowd.
That was
like freaking Conan O'Brien.
Yeah, exactly. That I would never have that happen because I wasn't even expecting it to happen. All of a sudden it turned into this whole thing.
I'm hanging back there doing a freaking monologue off the back steps of the restaurant.
Thank God for my brother and everything, because I wasn't supposed to host a tour, and before you know it, I'm doing 3-4 mile walks up and back. But
you got your steps in.
Yeah, no doubt. So, but yes, that is definitely confirmed.
We'll talk more about
we'll
that.
Talk more about as we get closer.
Hopefully, the Halloween season will be kicking this year, and we'll be a part of it.
Oh yeah.
All right. So for Doug, for Mike and Jamie in the control room, I am Rick. I want to thank Mr. Blobfest himself, Dash Daring, Chuck Francisco, for coming on again. It has been fun. This has been show 299. Tune in next week.
Goodbye, 200.
For the big 300th episode of Paradelphia. All right, so we are now out of here.
Good night.